So you want to be happy. Well, I know that feeling. Many of us have these fleeting moments where we get this thing called happiness that we so long for and wish that we had more of. And yet, happiness is actually a choice. It's a choice that we make. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. If you're watching the channel for the first time, I'm James, and I'm someone who struggled with this happiness thing for years and years and years. But in my mid-50s, I started to feel happy in my own skin. It was a turning point in my life. And that kind of makes me feel that I've got a little bit of knowledge that I can share with you, a bit of wisdom, if you like, that can help if you're someone who, like me, was never really as happy as you'd like to be. There's a few things I want to talk about. The first one, and that's regret. There are things that you do that you regret throughout your life. There are relationships that you had that you can regret for having them in the first place. I've had a few of those along the way. And losing some as well. And you can regret the things that you do. And they can hold you back so much. And I'll give you an example of a regret thing. It's a story from when I was maybe 32, 33. And I was at my mum and dad's one day. Now, me and my dad never had a matey relationship. We had what I'd call a working relationship. I'd worked with my dad from a boy and right the way through to being an adult. When I left family and bought my own business, I kind of always had that same relationship with my dad. When I got married, he'd come over and help me do work on my business. But we were never a matey, father and son. And I don't know whose fault that was. It could have been mine. I was quite outspoken as a young teen. That may have had a part to play in it. But anyway, getting back to this story. I was about 33 and I was visiting my mum and dad. Now, they lived about 100 miles away from me. So it was always a bit of a trek. So I didn't get there as often as I'd like to. But when we got there, it was usually okay. But my dad never really opened up. He'd chat now and again, but he'd spend a lot of the time quiet. And because of this, I would go and see my sister, who happened to live 3 doors away from them, and spend a lot of my time there. But one day, I was at my mum and dad's and just chatting as you normally do, and not thinking of anything differently. I walked into the bathroom to wash my hands, and my mum came in behind me. Now, this was very unusual. And she went to me, "Your dad doesn't think you like him." And I went, "You what?" And she went, "Your dad says he doesn't think you like him." I went, "That's rubbish, Mum. I idolise the ground he walked on. That's stupid. That's not true." And I walked out of the bathroom, walked back into the living room, and my dad was playing with one of my boys. And I felt like I should have said something. And yet I didn't. I couldn't bring myself to say that to my dad, to tell him that I loved him and that he was so wrong about I didn't like him. It was anything but. It's just one of those moments that even now, when I think back of it, I have so much regret over that. And the reason for it was maybe a year later. I was woken by a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning from my brother-in-law telling me that my dad had just died of a heart attack. And I've always regretted that I'd never said that to my dad. And you know what? When it comes to being happy, sometimes regret can play such a big part that it's always there. It's always there in the back of your mind. And it holds you back, and it has held me back for years. But you know, it made me feel bad, and it did for a long time. But you see, it's not about how you feel. It's about how you react to it. Because the truth of the matter is, Being happy is a choice. I talked about it earlier when I said to you that when I was in my mid-50s, I started to feel comfortable in my skin. When you start to feel comfortable in your skin, you realise that a lot of what you regret and what you worry about isn't important. And the other thing is guilt. I think guilt plays a huge part in our lives and how we go about things. I've struggled for a long time with things that happened in my life in the past, things that I could have done better, things that I should have done better. I've also felt guilty about things that I should never have felt guilty about. Christmas time is always something that's been quite big for me, in the fact that I loved it when I was growing up. But when my two boys were born, I lost our business and lost everything. And when I lost everything, I can remember birthdays and Christmases and going to car boot sales and going through second-hand shops and all that sort of thing, trying to buy presents. And it used to make me feel so guilty. My kids never knew any different, but I did. And that made me feel guilty. So if you want to be happy, what you have to do is control how you feel about things. You have to make the choice. And over the years, I've learned how to do that. And when I started to feel good about myself in my own skin and stopped caring what other people thought of me all the time, then I started to feel happier. I started to feel that, do you know what, after all those years of feeling rotten about myself, about feeling a letdown, of not being the best dad I could have been, all of those sorts of things, I got to the stage, and it took me till my mid-50s to think to myself, do you know what? You actually done pretty good. I look back at all of the things I felt guilty about, all the things that I thought I could have done better with, and realised, probably for the first time, that the decisions I made at the time were the best I could do with the information I had at the time. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. I can look back now and I can see all the mistakes I made over my life. And you can probably be listening to this story and go, yeah, I know that feeling. And we can let that take over and make us feel miserable and sad about our lives. But the fact is this, things happen. Obstacles get chucked in your way. You're going to do things that you'll wish you never did. But you can't take it back. You can't change things. If you made mistakes, you can apologise for them, by all means. But you can't change things, really. The only thing you can change is how you think about it. And I've realised that over the years, I'm not a bad person. I've realised that I've never, ever gone out of my way to upset and hurt anyone. I've never gone out of my way to do anything to make it bad for anyone. And you know what? I ain't such a bad guy. And what I'm saying to you is this. If you want to be happy, become happy with yourself. Understand that the mistakes you've made in the past happened. If you'd have known better at the time, you'd have made better decisions. But you didn't. So they happened. If you've done things wrong in your past that you could have done better, know that you didn't do them thinking that, how can I cock this up? You tried your best at the time. You see, it isn't what you feel, it's how you deal with what you feel. You can be having a crap day and your 3-year-old son can come up and want to give you a kiss like you're a hero. And that'll make you feel better. And you have to remember that in their eyes, you are. But it's more important to realise that in your life, you're the hero of the story. You're the one who can be as happy as you feel you want to. Be grateful for the good things that happen in your life. Make sure that you pay attention to the little stuff. The little stuff is what makes you happy. Hearing Roy Orbison sing Uptown in my car on my music will bring a big smile to my face and make me as happy as anything. Watching two old people sitting on the bench laughing about something they did 30, 40, 50 years ago can bring a smile to my face. See, you can be happy about the way you see the world. Forget the wider world, forget social media and the news and what's supposedly going to happen to you. We're not all going to explode tomorrow. The world is not going to be 100 times worse because you read it in a paper. Your world is up here, and you have control of that. And I can honestly tell you this, that the day when I realised that I wasn't such a bad person, once I realised that, it changed everything, because I started to realise that I could be as happy as I wanted to be. It was just a choice. And so can you. Now, if that's made any sense to you, I'm really happy about that. If you've listened along and you're still with me at this stage and not wanting to slit your wrists because I've made you so miserable, then leave us a comment. Comment down below. Give me some examples of when you've realised that you can make yourself happy just by changing your attitude about something. Let me know. I would love to hear your stories. And I'm sure other people who are watching this would love to be able to read them afterwards as well. And if you're new and you're still here, don't feel you have to subscribe yet. Watch 3, 4, 5 of my other videos. And if you like a broad spectrum of them, then subscribe. Because there's no point you subscribing to me and then thinking the next one, my God, he's a twat, that man. Oh, I can't help myself sometimes. But yeah, subscribe when you've seen a few videos and if you think I'm okay. And to give you an opportunity, click on that video there and I'll share some other stuff that I think about, that I think can help you move towards a life in which you feel happier within yourself. I'll see you over there.